Dragon-focused games continue to capture attention through scale, atmosphere, and fantasy world design. From vast landscapes to detailed creature animations, these upcoming titles aim to present dragons in more immersive and visually impressive ways. Let's get into it.
Today, a new chapter in this land's history shall be written.
Crimson Desert is an open-world action RPG where the player controls Cliff, a mercenary leader operating across the continent of Pywell. Gameplay combines fast-paced melee combat, ranged weapons, and elemental abilities with large-scale battles and one-on-one encounters. Players gather resources, craft equipment, ride mounts, and use climbing and gliding mechanics to move across varied terrain. Progress involves rebuilding the Greymanes, interacting with rival factions, and adapting combat tactics to different enemies and battlefield situations.
In the end, all will come together as one.
We fight for the future of all. Sound the horn of our final battle. Fight! Fight for Pywell!
Your fight is not for revenge, nor glory, nor pride.
This is your hell!
Remember who you are, and let it guide your path. For at the end of it, you will find the answers you seek.
Project Awakening is an action role-playing game developed by Cygames Osaka that takes place in a high fantasy setting with an emphasis on combat-driven gameplay. The design highlights real-time action combat influenced by titles such as Monster Hunter and Dragon's Dogma, with encounters built around large enemies and player skill. The game includes role-playing systems and supports both single-player and multiplayer play.
O God of steel and fury, give us flesh to hunt! For blood
Dragontwin is an open-world action RPG with strategy systems developed by Draconic Interactive. The player controls a warrior and a bonded dragon, combining aerial combat with ground-based fighting while managing a personal lair. Gameplay supports flying, direct dragon combat, and territory control linked to kingdom management. Both the rider and the dragon can be customized to change combat roles and tactics.
lamp bearer.
Lords of the Fallen 2 is a dark fantasy action RPG developed by Hexworks that builds on the combat-driven design of the 2023 game. Gameplay uses faster, more fluid melee combat with weapon-specific movesets, alongside a new dismemberment and execution system. Boss encounters are designed around high-pressure fights with unique mechanics, while the Umbral Realm plays a more active role in moment-to-moment gameplay and world interaction. The structure includes multiple biomes, distinct enemy factions, shared progression co-op, optional PvP, and adjustable modifiers for custom playstyles.
Father, forgive me.
Mir 5 is a free-to-play MMORPG developed by Remade Next, using Unreal Engine 5, designed for PC and mobile play. Gameplay builds on the Legend of Mir lineage, with large-scale combat, class-based characters, and automated systems similar to Mir 4 Nightcrows. A key system is the AI-driven boss Asterion, which adapts to player behavior and changes tactics across encounters. The game integrates blockchain systems through the Wemix platform, supporting digital assets alongside traditional progression systems. Game of Thrones War for Westeros is a real-time strategy game where the player commands one of the great houses in large-scale battles across the Seven Kingdoms. Gameplay revolves around base management, army production, and tactical combat in real time. Players recruit units, deploy iconic heroes, and manage resources while reacting to enemy movements on the battlefield. The game supports solo play and competitive multiplayer, with matches built around shifting alliances, territorial control, and direct military confrontation.
This is your legacy. You decide who wins and who dies.
Divinity is a fantasy role-playing game developed by Larian Studios and takes place in the Rivellon setting known from earlier titles. Gameplay uses turn-based combat built on a new rule set designed around systemic interactions, character skills, and environmental mechanics. Player actions affect narrative outcomes through layered consequence systems that operate across quests, characters, and world states. The design supports high player agency in both combat and decision-making, with large, interconnected areas and detailed reactivity supported by an updated internal engine.
My dear children, I write this letter to you.
Solasta 2 is a turn-based tactical RPG, developed by Tactical Adventures and built on the SRD 5.2 rule set. Players create and control a party of 4 adventurers, managing, positioning, actions, spells, and dice-based outcomes during combat. Gameplay relies on grid-based encounters, class abilities, and environmental interaction tied closely to tabletop systems. The game includes party creation, character progression, and tactical decision-making across the continent of Neokos, with systems designed to support both story-driven quests and structured combat challenges.
She deserves the peace of death.
What an interesting family you must have.
Is that fear I sense? Good.
Stay in the light. Never give into darkness. Your loving mother, Marhin.
Sagas of Lumin is a single-player action RPG by Elos Games and Arts that allows full control over dragonflight and ground combat. Gameplay switches between manual aerial combat using fire attacks, grapples, and dogfights, and ground battles that combine melee weapons, spells, and firearms. Players fight enemy dragons, flying ships, and ground forces while managing positioning and timing. Combat systems support different playstyles, with decisions influencing events and character interactions as the story progresses across interconnected regions. Gothic 1 Remake is an action RPG developed by Alchemia Interactive that rebuilds the original game with modern systems while keeping its core structure intact. The player controls a nameless prisoner surviving inside a sealed mining colony ruled by rival factions. Gameplay centers on character progression, faction alignment, and deliberate melee combat with updated mechanics. NPCs follow daily routines and react to player actions, while quests branch based on decisions and alliances. The remake modernizes controls, combat flow, and world interaction without altering the original progression design.
The so-called Brotherhood of the Sleeper, worshipping their mysterious god. They might be onto something. And the Orcs. Well, you might dismiss their culture as primitive, but it would be prudent to study them carefully. Maybe the key to all of this lies buried deep under their sanctuaries. I cannot unravel these mysteries all alone. I need allies. Allies who look out for more than their own survival. Allies who accomplish things you might have considered impossible. Allies I will meet soon enough.
Fable is an action role-playing game set in a reimagined version of Albion. Gameplay uses third-person combat with melee weapons, ranged attacks, and magic, supported by open-area traversal using mounts. Player decisions influence characters, quests, and political outcomes across the land. The design keeps series traditions such as moral choice systems and British humor, while using the Forza Tech engine to support a large, detailed fantasy environment. Dragon Survival is an open-world survival RPG where the player is stranded on a floating island alongside a young dragon companion. Gameplay centers on gathering resources, crafting tools, building shelters, and managing hunger, weather, and hostile creatures. The dragon grows alongside the player and assists in combat and progression. Players move between different islands with unique climates, enemies, and materials, adapting survival strategies each time. Progress is tied to defeating powerful island rulers, unlocking new regions, and strengthening both the player character and the dragon through skills, gear, and base upgrades.
I saw my world fall to ash, consumed by the void.
Chrono Odyssey is a massively multiplayer action RPG developed by Chrono Studio and published by Cacao Games. Gameplay takes place across a seamless landmass and uses real-time combat built around time control through the Chronotector. Players can stop or rewind time during fights to reposition, evade attacks, or alter outcomes. The game supports large-scale group content such as dungeons, raids, and PvP, alongside harvesting, crafting, and trading systems. Character creation and progression allow deep customization for long-term multiplayer play.
Some say time stops for no one. Neither man nor God, living nor dead. Yet what then of those who deigned to turn back the hands of fate? To save what remains of our broken worlds, you need only take my hand. Return to the past.
So, how did it feel to learn the truth about the Night Sky tragedy?
ArcheAge Chronicles is a massively multiplayer action RPG. Players operate in Aurora through real-time combat that supports melee, ranged attacks, and magic with movement actions like dodging and blocking. Systems include life skills such as crafting, farming, housing, and trading, connected to player-driven economies. Cooperative and competitive modes support PvE and PvP activities, with progression tied to gear builds, skill choices, and large-scale social interaction across the shared world.
Prove yourself. If you survive this trial,
Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection is a role-playing game where the player acts as a rider who raises and fights alongside monsters in turn-based battles. Combat uses a rock-paper-scissors style attack system combined with skills, weapons, and coordinated monster actions. Players hatch monsters from eggs, manage party composition, and adjust tactics based on enemy behavior. Progression revolves around strengthening bonds with monsters, upgrading gear, and responding to large-scale conflicts tied to Twin Rathalos.
Our ignorance is proving fatal. The encroachment threatens to drive our people out of house and home. But this divide has brought our two kingdoms to the brink of war.
And you are the sole Rathalos rider in Azuria.
My people have been driven into a corner, and the point of no return is looming before us.
Can't afford not to go. I cross the meridian and keep going. Ratha! But it won't be for long.
I can hear them. Two sounds. Overlapping each other.
The Witcher 4 is an open-world action role-playing game developed by CD Projekt Red with Ciri as the playable monster hunter. Players control Ciri in real-time combat, using swords, magic, and mobility abilities while traveling across large regions on foot or by summoning her horse, Kelpie. Gameplay supports flexible character builds, varied encounters, and branching narrative decisions across main quests and side content. The design uses Unreal Engine 5 and expands player agency through deeper systems and regional variety.
Salt.
Almost had me fooled, Fruin.
Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is a role-playing game that uses turn-based combat and a vocation system to shape party roles. Players control a small group of companions, selecting actions, abilities, and tactics during battles. Progression comes from unlocking vocations, gaining skills, and improving equipment. Gameplay involves restoring lost regions by solving objectives in different time periods, which alters available locations and encounters. Visuals use a diorama style, while updated systems streamline pacing, combat flow, and character growth.
We might find a clue to help get us back home.
We're finally going to unlock the world's mysteries!
This pact we have forged.
Warlock Dungeons & Dragons is a single-player, third-person action-adventure developed by Invoke Studios. The player controls Khatri, a warrior using dark magic and spellcraft to defeat enemies and solve environmental challenges. Combat emphasizes direct control, expressive spell use, and real-time abilities, rather than dice systems. Gameplay supports multiple solutions through magic interactions, traversal tools, and combat choices. Progress is tied to mastering spells, understanding patron powers, and adapting tactics across a connected open world. Eldrimar is a dark fantasy action RPG with survival horror elements developed by Honor Games. Players control Saran, a lone warrior fighting through non-linear areas filled with undead enemies. Gameplay relies on deliberate melee combat, crossbows, and magic, supported by armor and damage systems that affect encounters. Progress requires clearing hostile zones, solving environmental puzzles, and leveling skills. Combat difficulty and limited resources encourage careful movement and timing, while varied enemy types and layouts drive steady advancement through the ruined kingdom.
Realms. Always remember your purpose. You are Sauron, the warrior of Azator. You are the sword of vengeance in the hands of your race. It is you who will invade the mortal realm and unlock the great portal. The time has come to reclaim our world.
The Wings of Dawn is an online survival game where players choose to live as humans or dragons in a shared world called Arelari. Gameplay requires managing health, hunger, thirst, and shelter, while competing for resources against wildlife and other players. Humans rely on tools, cooperation, and basic survival, while dragons grow from hatchlings, learn flight, and use elemental attacks. Players can form groups, defend territory, and survive shifting dangers that intensify after nightfall across large regions and hostile encounters. Dragon Shelter is a farming simulation game where the player manages a rural homestead alongside dragons in a fantasy setting. Gameplay centers on growing crops, gathering materials, crafting goods, and preparing meals while caring for dragons with distinct traits and abilities. Dragons assist with farm tasks and resource production when properly maintained. Players restore abandoned land, support nearby towns through requests and deliveries, and manage daily routines that connect farming, creature care, and settlement recovery through steady progression systems.